such a revelation also. But I just think you're so strong and brave to do this. And it's a beautiful film. Everything about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, you have me from the Merv Griffin show opening. And everybody's carrying dogs.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, I'd like to talk about, you mentioned that in COVID, during the pandemic, you started thinking you'd do some research. Did you have the idea of making a film, or were you just doing research?
I think it was something that people have been asking me about for a long time that I wasn't ready to do. And then during COVID, I was, like many of us, were sort of cleaning out our garages and basements and nesting and figuring out how to survive. And I found boxes and boxes and boxes of photos and just archive of my mother that I finally had a chance to sit with, things that I had received over the years that I was so overwhelmed by that I just like put it in a box, I wasn't ready to look at it. And then I finally started opening it and sitting with it, and then receiving all these beautiful letters from people that knew my mother, and I started cold calling them during the pandemic, and I had these amazing conversations. Many of them were obviously still alive and shared all these beautiful stories with me. And this one lady said, "Oh, I used to sit outside her house in the driveway and listen to her play the violin." And I was just so moved, and I would take these little kernels, these little gifts of gold, these treasures that I found from these letters and conversations, and seeing these moments, these stills, an expression on her face that just made me want to dive in, and start to ask the question behind the question, and start doing the dig. So it was during that time that I said, I'm ready, and I want to do this.
Make a film, But yeah, I can just imagine how overwhelming that must have been to discover all that, but also uplifting.
Very much so, and there were so many parts, and I feel like signs along the way, that I just had to wait to get all those pieces to finally say, boom, I'm ready to dive in. And then it was this like archaeological dive that I did, and it was a lovely and brilliant and rocky road.
Yeah. And then the other, I love everything about the film, but introducing your siblings and setting them up and miking them and seeing how nervous and anxious. I mean, that really worked. Beautiful.
Yeah, it really added to the texture.
Speaking as a filmmaker.
Yeah, but it did. It really added to everything. I mean, my brother says, "Oh, I love the wood on the slate." There were all these like pure little moments, especially my siblings, as you can see, none of them are in the film business, and they don't know anything, about my life or what I do. And they experienced it all, as children, watching my mother do her thing, which is quite different than mine, as you can see. But
did you have to really work on them to get them to
it was a beautiful journey. I am from Los Angeles, and I was in New York, and I flew here to meet with everybody and ask them, and they were all sort of shocked and tentative and said like, okay, that ship sailed, like let sleeping dogs lie and let's move on and this and that, and then they all said, I wouldn't do it, but I trust you, is what they said. And that was extraordinary to be told that. And so that's what we did. But it's like watching the film again tonight, this is a movie about, as my middle brother says, I didn't want to carry it. That's what he said in the movie. I was carrying it, and I wanted to know what I was carrying. So we're all carrying it, whether you want to carry it or not.
Yeah.
So my point was, if we're carrying it, let's see what we're carrying it, and the only way out is through, so let's do this. And I think it was quite cathartic experience for all of us.
Oh, well, that's good, because being interviewed in a documentary, it's not easy. Yeah.
But how gorgeous are they? All of them. I mean, such extraordinary stories, and so open, and so brave, as you said, and so loving. So much love.
Yeah, yeah. That's how you were able to have such great moments with such rapport.
Yeah.
And Trish, when did you work together with?
Well, I have actually known Mariska for nearly 27 years, I'm fortunate to say.
We met when I was 2.
I was just born. And I always tell people we're the only natural brunettes that worked on SVU.
Exactly.
We met on the show. I worked on Law and Order SVU for 14 years, and Mariska's dressing room and office was next to my office, and she used to come, and she was so vivacious and vibrant and friendly, and she would come into my office and she'd say, Dick wants me to play it this way. Should I play it? What do you think? I want to play it this way. And I would play it from your heart. And look how it paid off. She'd talk about her boyfriends, and as my career grew and her career kept growing, and I got into documentary, she took gracious note of my work, and we kept saying to each other that we wanted to do something together, and we'd made another film called I Am Evidence, belonging to unjustified kids in America, and Mariska's foundation has done extraordinary work in ending the backlog in this country. It's extremely notable and pivotal, and thanks from all survivors that have greatly benefited. But we came together again. Mariska approached me in 2022 and said she wanted to do a production company and she wanted to do documentaries. And I said, well, which story do you want to tell first? And she looked at me and she said, I'm ready. And I knew exactly what she meant. And I got chills down my spine, and I really wanted to keep on that path from the heart. Not only her foundation being called that, but that's who she is as a person. Everything comes from her heart on so many levels. And I think for me, supporting her in this journey was really about having those that knew Jayne the most. So coming from the inside out through her siblings. Like, there were a lot of people that said they knew Jayne, and we'd go on these crazy trips meeting them, and we'd always feel like, oh,
Did they know her?
they kind of did, or they kind of didn't, and I kept saying, we gotta stay with the kids. We gotta stay with the kids, and we're sure, and that's how all the storytelling came when Zoli talks about that terrible night and his moment when Jayne came in and hugged him that night, and the intimacy of this film is extraordinary. And for Mariska to reveal so much, I think that it's something that resonates for all of us on so many levels.
That's true. It's so intimate. I mean, you feel like you're in the room, and a lot of that has to do with the beautiful camera work too. Yeah, and I love the close-ups and a lot of the way things are framed. But so the DP then was.
Tony Hardman, extraordinary Tony Hardman. And we'd worked with Tony Hardman on I Am Evidence.
Right, yeah.
Trish knew him, and I was so lucky that she brought him to me, and we just, he collected, did such a beautiful job on I Am Evidence, and then from this, obviously it was such a personal piece, and so I was very careful about who I wanted to be around, but Tony, if you know him, is such a deeply, deeply soulful human, deeply, and I just, you feel so safe because he's with you, but he also had the capacity to understand that, I go there, I'm in, and so if you're with me, you gotta go all the way in, because I go in, and he was just ready, and like this big, beautiful oak, like a big, strong oak, And so brilliant, and so, did all these beautiful shots, and I just knew he was catching everything, and everything I asked him to do, he's like, yeah, I got it.
And clearly everybody felt comfortable
Yeah.
with him.
Oh,
So-
everybody felt comfortable with him.
Yeah.
My brothers love him and are still in touch with him.
Oh,
Yes, as am I, yes.
Oh, that's
we-
wonderful. Yeah.
He moved
Family.
from Brooklyn to LA, so he's now here, he's in the Hargitay family.
Yeah, he's in the
Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a very bonded, crew, obviously.
it had to be,
The
yeah.
intimacy of the subject matter.
Yeah. Well, another thing I wondered was the wonderful interview with you. Did you conduct that?
J.D. Marlowe and I did it.
Yeah.
And Mariska did it sort of.
I sort of
also,
did
but
it.
we were all.
It was funny actually, because I asked my husband to do it, and then afterwards I was like, no, get out. Right now I can't do it with you. And then JD did it, and JD came in, our brilliant editor, and then Trish came in and would ask questions, and the two of them did it. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. And I felt safe and open and trusted them, and then I would just also do monologues.
Well,
But that was a fun, interesting though, that scene in particular was so fun for me because I'm not fun to shoot it obviously, but when I was editing it, the way I went in for the close-up, right? And I remember going, what if we go in, like ECU on my eyes, what if we really, I want to get inside that. And it was so fun. JD was like, really?
No, I love this. It's a great story she's bringing up because we had two cameras, and then Mariska pulls out her directorness with the winky wink. She always does this winky wink thing, and she puts a cell phone. We didn't have
two cameras, but I wanted a
puts a cell
third.
phone right at that precise spot to capture her eye, and it was so
Super tight.
profound and exciting to see its place in the film. And from being an editor, Kate, that value of having that added
Yeah.
camera.
And that was my,
Yes.
because there wasn't a lot, with directing, I obviously direct television on SVU, but directing a documentary has nothing to do with directing television, obviously. But that was like the one place where I went, no, I want to go in tight here, because we need to be, inside. We need to be in my mind of what I felt. And that was the only way I knew how to tell the story that way. So, that
yeah,
was fun.
no, I really experienced that as well, everything is from the heart in this film, but that one, I knew that you were talking with people that you trusted, but also something that meant so much to you. Yeah. And speaking of JD, the editing is
The editing is
fantastic.
next level.
Very good.
It's extraordinary, and it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that process with him, and we all just had great synergy because we obviously try so many things, and you have to go in and go in again. And Trish is such a meticulous, such a good word for you, meticulous producer, and obviously she's a director in her own right. And so the three of us together, there was no rock left unturned, and we would just try, and my motto as an artist, as a filmmaker, is always best idea wins in the story.
Right, but you have to try and
Yeah.
try and try.
Yeah, so
you probably had.
we were never satisfied.
Well, you are now.
Going.
Yeah, but it's still funny. I found this picture just 2 days ago when I sent it to JD. I'm like, shit! I should have put this one in. It's a black and white picture that a friend of mine, Nancy Ellison, took, in like 1995. And I'm like, is it too late? I don't think we're ever done. Can you imagine? HBO? Listen, real quick. Which that's fine, right? If we just open it up again. Anyway, I'm learning so much. One of the biggest things, I love telling this story just because it was the first time directing for me, and in television, the television director is king, right? When I say cut, when I say action, when I say cut. And one of the first times on the set, I remember I called cut, and nobody cut! And I was like, I got no juice here, I got no juice. And so it was so funny. and you have 3 camera operators going, she doesn't know. It was so fun. Like, I mean, it was just such a joy. I wish I could write down everything that I learned. Well, it was just, it's my favorite, is learning new things and feeling like an idiot. Anyway.
Well, what about going through all the archival footage and the television
Extraordinary.
shows and all the...
It was a gift from the heavens. Things just fell out of the sky for me. You know, I remember meeting with JD the first time, and he's like, well, you know, you learned this 30 years ago. Gee, do you have any archival? And I was like this. Calm down. But it was amazing, and it was, I mean, we had such a wealth of archive. It was so difficult to choose. It was so difficult for us, and going through the photos. I mean, how many photos do we have?
Over 15,000.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane, 15,000, and every night that's all I did for 2 years, is look through the photos and mark them, category, because those photos, you know, dictated everything too, because I saw things that I'd never seen, but also this idea of capturing a moment, an expression from my mother that I'd never seen, that I went, oh, there you are. Because for me, it was so difficult growing up with this pose, like, what is that? Why the bathing suit and the heels? I just wanted to see my mom. I wanted to know who she was. And I couldn't get it from photos or from the movies, you know, little pieces. But in the archival, you know, that scene with Jack Parr, and I mean, how powerful is that? But, and also, you know, watching her with the violin and everything, it was so extraordinary. It was so extraordinary. It was like a gift. And there were so many things about this movie when I was, I can't remember exactly how old I was, but when I found the letter in my grandmother's closet that said about my Italian bambino. When I found that, then I started going, wow, the movies, like, these were the pieces of the puzzle that were all coming together for me, that I was tucking away in my soul, you know, waiting for this moment to do. But there was a lot of, you know, infrastructure that I had to build, emotional infrastructure myself before I could make this movie, because I didn't know what I was going to find, and I needed to be ready. And you know, it was a lot, but
yeah, and then sitting with it every day in the editing room.
Yeah, sitting with it every day.
Yeah.
It's been, you know, an epiphany after epiphany, and cathartic, and such a joy, and such an intimate and bonding experience for life. This was. I encourage everybody to do it. But, you know, it was also diving into the unknown and going into what we are afraid of. That I like to think of this movie as an invitation for us to look at the things that we're scared of. Because there's freedom on the other side. And love.
Right. And you feel that. You sense it throughout the film.
The joy at the end is pretty great. How great are my sisters?
Yeah. Well, and then you mentioned the violin, and I had no idea. That was complete.
Well, that's for me too, as I say in the film, like, experience my mother as an artist and experiencing her as a musician was so profound to me, to see that she was a musician first and an artist first, and what that took, and the discipline that it took made me understand who she was as, you know, this like architect of her life and her career, and what she managed and what was unseen. That's what I was interested in, is what is not seen.
And you've honored her beautifully.
Well, so far we've taken her to Carnegie Hall. That's where the premiere was, in New York. Yeah. And my grandmother said, you know, that her teacher said that she was good enough to be in Carnegie Hall. Well, your life got cut short. we'll hook you up. So that was extraordinarily emotional and meaningful that night.
Oh, yeah,
See
and
you
the
there.
whole family came, I assume.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that must have been incredible.
There are no words.
You know. And I assume they loved the film too.
They did. My favorite story is after when I came to LA to show my siblings the film. Afterwards, we all were in a hug, and my sister said, "There's 4 of us here. There's 4 people here, but I feel like we only have 1 heart." So it's pretty extraordinary the way they received the film, and it was quite organizing for our family emotionally. It was quite organizing internally, and that was also wonderful. And for some of the younger people in our family to go, "Oh, the story makes sense now," you know, and to give people that kind of perspective and that linear journey. But all the complexity of all the characters that you feel like I could have judged, and then going in with this sort of disciplined curiosity, sort of going, like without judgment, going, "Tell me what happened. Help me understand what happened. Why didn't you claim me? Why didn't tell me what happened?" And then learning all these gorgeous and loving answers. Like so many people had such good intentions, and I didn't think that. Everything I thought was wrong. And it turned out to be such a gift.
Oh,
So
yes,
I learned a lot.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, and yeah, it's been extraordinary to see how the movie has resonated with people because, again, there's something in there for everyone in terms of the
Yes.
family,
Yeah.
the mother, because obviously mother and father is everything.
Yeah.
And we all have a story and we all have loss. So, but we can heal.
That's a wonderful
We can heal.
gift from this film and this experience, and I think we all felt so grateful and emotional, and I want to say that's awesome.
No, I'm just grateful for everyone for coming, and it was so fun to listen to you experience the film. It was extraordinary. A lot of big hearts in this theater. Are we taking questions?
One or two? Yeah.
We could take a couple right here.
Just a quick one, have you ever played the piano there?
Well, as you know, my husband just got me that piano.
Yes.
My children are learning the piano, and my oldest son is really learning quickly, and I am going to start, but I have in about a year. I'm busting chops in the day and doing this film on the weekend, if you know what I mean. So I don't have the time right now to jump into it the way I want to, but the answer is yes, that is my goal, that is my dream, and my hope. So thank you for the question.
We want to see that movie too.
You said on the stage that you learned so many things from the film and making it. What was the most important thing you learned about yourself?
What was the most important
Thing
thing?
that I learned. Well, it's interesting. But tolerance,
Oh.
to be curious about the other. And that's why I say a disciplined curiosity, but to not judge that way and to be patient and wait, hold. And the genuine curiosity was what was so healing, because we're all connected in our humanity, and hearing everyone's story, their other perspective was magnificent. And it just went in so deep that I have such love and so much more space for others, especially people that I may not understand.
First of all, thank you for being here. It's such an honor.
Oh, thank you.
You radiate power than what I could ever see on TV. So,
And I don't have my
wife,
gun or anything. Or my badge. And I'm in heels.
half of my wife who would probably break down and cry if you even looked at it.
sorry.
In discovering who your mom was, have you learned anything about yourself that you adopted in who you are today?
I think that I was a tomboy when I was younger, and as I said in the movie, I sort of disowned parts of myself, and it was harder, and I now accept all the different parts of myself, and I know that I'm all of those things, and not one thing, or two things, or three things. Like all of us, we're so complex. We're so many things. We're so powerful, and we're so fragile. Like, we're so many things that I really allow the space to be all of what I am now. And to see what my parents were, to see all the way my mother was pigeonholed, the way my mother was put in a box, the way she was disrespected and they minimized her and were like, sweetheart, put on a tight dress and dye your hair blonde. I would have been, fuck you. To me a little bit when I started acting. People said, what's your name? Mariska Hargitay. No, what's your real name? And I'm like, do you think I made that shit up? So for me, they were like, get a nose job. The guy said this to me. He said, get a nose job. I said, you get a nose job. And so there were things that I felt like it's true, but in my early 20s that I had learned from my mother, like I had learned from my dad who told me what my mother went through, that I was like, you don't tell me, I tell you. And I learned that. And so that has been the gift, because who's somebody else to tell you what you are? No one can tell you what you are. Because only God can say what we are. And God gave us all of it. God made us this perfect little concoction, each one of us. So it's just our job to let it all out.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So powerful.
The crying wife.
You're one of my, you're my idol. Well, this is ER.
Oh,
You're a big hero of mine.
thank you. She loves me. Okay, one more, because oh, look at this one in the back. She's crazy. No, she's like waving like a banshee. Go ahead.
First of all, it was incredible, moving, funny. One thing that I noticed was your stepmother.
Yeah.
Your dad's wife. And when she got married pretty quickly after your mom passed away, and was that a happy family for you? I mean, you talk about laughing, and I felt an important piece of this.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. It's super loaded, right? Well, I say that because my dad did get married quickly after, and I was very young, right? I was 4.5, 5 when they got married. I think at that point, I didn't know how to grieve. I didn't know how to process any of it. And I was happy, as destroyed as I was, as we are, right? Losing our mother, as any child is, by losing their parent. I was grateful to have somebody, a loving person, to take care of me. And I was, not resentful till I was older to understand what I lost. But I always wanted my mom. I wanted my mom. I mean, I grew up like so jealous of friends that looked like their mom, and their mom would pick them up, and I didn't look like anyone, and that was something that resonated so deeply from my childhood. As it's like my sister says in the movie, when there's a truth, you know it, because it's what everyone's doing around it. So when I was different from this tall, I knew something was different about me. I've always felt like I was different, and not in a good way. Even though my sisters know that I was this special child. I give them such a hard time about that now. You were on to something. I'm so close with my sisters, but I think that sense of belonging, of wanting to belong, and not having my family, and not having my mother there was very hard for me to make sense of. But now, as a mother, as a 61-year-old woman, I look at my stepmother so grateful for her presence, for what she did. And I'm also super honest with her, because 2 things can be true, 3 things can be true. She was a lovely stepmother, and I wanted my mother.
Yeah.
You know, that's the fact. And so I tell her that, and now we understand each other, and it's honest, and I have so much love and respect for her. And that's why I wanted to make her like the narrator, to honor her story and what she did. It's not hard to be married to, you know, Mickey Hargitay and be the mother of Jayne Mansfield's kids. I mean, that she could never live that down. And my father was very, 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 very much in love with her and brokenhearted, as you can see in the film. And as she says, when you love someone, you always love them. That's what true love is.
I think that's a good way to
That was me dropping the mic.
mic drop.
Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We invite you to make your way out.
Serve you free on stage.
A quick photo. Let's have you, yeah, this corner.